I had personal experience with observing disputed elections. We were in Florida in 2020, Judicial Watch was. We were in the middle of these ballot fights, and we saw what was going on. We were observing the counting. And then we did our own recount analysis. And you gotta be, people say, how close do you need to be to the pollster or the poll taker or a poll worker, election judge? You gotta be sitting on top of them. Someone on Twitter the other day made the point, and I don't know who he was, but meaning that he was not someone who had a blue check mark, just an average citizen. But he made the brilliant observation. Look, when you count ballots on election day, you may have partisans involved, and of course you have observers from both sides, but they don't know how many votes they need as they're counting the win, right? That's why we count ballots on election day. And as soon as you count ballots after election day, then you get the conflict of interest. They know how many ballots they need to win. And that introduces that, in many cases, an irresistible temptation for fraud into the process. And as Justice Kavanaugh has noted in a recent decision, it undermines confidence in the fair administration of the elections. Not every state counts ballots that arrive after Election Day. Most don't, for the reasons I suggest. And in Philadelphia, it's compounded by the illicit secrecy, counting ballots away from observers. I know there's an argument versus meaningful access versus being cut off literally. My understanding in Pennsylvania, some of them were banned completely. Observers were banned completely from the counting centers, and others were let in but had to stand so far away they couldn't make up. They would literally need binoculars to figure that out, and of course they weren't allowed to use binoculars. Now, I have personal experience with observing disputed elections. We were in Florida in 2020, Judicial Watch was. We were in the middle of these ballot fights, and we saw what was going on. We were observing the counting. And then we did our own recount analysis. And you gotta be, people say, how close do you need to be to the pollster or the poll taker or a poll worker, election judge? You gotta be sitting on top of them. But when you've got a corrupt process, in many ways, it doesn't matter. I know President Trump is complaining, his campaign is complaining about not having access to observe the count properly. Now they may have more access, but it's too late. Most of them has been counted. I mean, Joe Biden is winning in Pennsylvania. The extra counting changed the result in Pennsylvania that was there on Tuesday. It's now a different number. Same in Georgia. It happened more quickly in places like Wisconsin and Michigan, but it happened nevertheless, where the result from Tuesday changed to Wednesday in Joe Biden's favor. So I know the president wants to be there and to watch this process, but the counting itself is inappropriate, as I say. So it's a process in which he's almost guaranteed to lose. And as I was on with Lou Dobbs earlier this week, and I made the point. I said it's like asking to get a closer look at a 3-card Monte game in which you're the mark. It doesn't matter how close you look, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. Now, on the other hand, they may be able to make and build information about voter fraud that raises concerns enough with the court that they are able to get relief where ballots are tossed aside or have to be recounted. I don't know. I don't see how that changes the outcome even in that scenario. That's why I've been highlighting the fact that counting after Election Day should be, we should just say no to it. This was the foreseeable result, this chaos. I've been warning you, and if you've been watching me even if you watch one prior video, you probably see me say, we're going to have chaos. It's going to introduce the element of voter fraud, opportunities for voter fraud if this happens. So you've got extended counts, secretive counts, Radical changes in numbers, again, after Election Day, all of that is indicia of fraud, in my view. All of that are indicia of fraud. So what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know what could happen in the sense of having a good understanding of the alternatives. First of all, the president is asking for recounts. There's, I guess, an automatic recount in Georgia. Wisconsin, there's a recount. I don't believe a recount is going to change the outcome. If President Trump benefited from the recount, he'd be the first Republican in the history of man to benefit from an election recount. And I say that with some exaggeration, but and for comic effect, but that's true. He's not going to change the results in a recount. More substantial, I think, are the but who knows? Maybe there are a number of ballots that were missed, and there've been talk of computer glitches and things like that. I don't know. It's hard to tell what's real and what's not. So I defer to folks on the ground to try to figure out what's happening, and that will be raised in the courts and with officials as the recounts progress. So I don't want to rule anything out, but I'm just trying to give you my best estimate of the likelihood of success of President Trump overturning election results through a recount. Secondly, they have issues of fraud they're trying to raise with the courts. Will that allow the courts to throw out ballots? Well, that's a big question. It depends how significant the fraud is and whether they can make the case. Or even more importantly, and that's a possibility because it's been done before in my view, have new elections, have a do-over. In Pennsylvania, I think that whole counting process just, you can't trust it. You can't trust the outcome as a result. You don't need, oh, we caught this person doing that, we caught that person doing, no. You've got a process that necessarily is such a black box, you can't trust what went on. And by you being the candidate, you being the voter, you being the citizen, and as importantly, probably most important at all in this circumstance, you being the court. So we'll see what happens there. But in terms of the numbers, Arizona, the Republicans think that they can still win in Arizona. I don't know if that's the case. And in Georgia, Biden has overtaken the president in his vote in the current vote count. Same in Pennsylvania. And as I said, this was inevitable. They knew this was going to happen. You send out millions of ballots and you have a system in place that doesn't allow you to count them in time. And now these ballots, in my view, are outside the law in terms of being counted too late. And that would be the argument I would make. It seems to me the cleanest argument. So we'll see what happens there.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.